of the Cohasset Advisory Committee on Wednesday, March 4th at 7:03 to order. And could I have a roll call, please? Gina Stino here. Michael Flaherty.
Michael Flaherty here.
Mike Barclay.
Mike Barclay here.
Courtney Murphy.
Courtney Murphy here.
Mark Cameron. Your microphone is off rather. Sorry, Mark.
Here.
Mark Maggi.
Mark Maggi here.
Tom Callahan.
Tom Callahan here.
And Diane Kennedy.
Diane Kennedy here.
Okay. Vince got in touch with me and said that it will probably be a little bit late. So I think we will start with the discussion of the warrant articles. But I have to say, I did not get this information until today, and I was at work all day. I haven't had a chance to review it. I was not able to access any of the information. So I'm kind of in the dark. So I'm counting on you, Michelle.
Okay, it's purely in draft form. There's not a lot of details in it, Jean, so you're not missing much.
I know.
I'll go through it quickly.
I'd like to have the copy so I can make margin notes as we talk. So
I just emailed you a copy. Were you able to pull that up?
I don't know because my phone is being charged.
Oh.
I can't get into my regular email.
Oh.
I'm locked out. Okay.
Okay.
And if it makes me change my password one more time, I might throw it across the room.
So why don't I share it and then everyone can see it at the same time?
Excellent.
Does that work? Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Let me find it. Okay. Okay, so as we see, there are 28 articles. The warrant has grown substantially since the first time I was able to present it to Select Board, where we only had about 18 to 20 articles. We will go through them one by one. And if you have any questions, we can hold the article. So Article 1, housekeeping, it's to recognize citizens and employees for service to the town. So we encourage all community members, if there is a citizen or employee that they'd like to recognize, please let us know. Article 2 is the annual town report. Once again, something we do every year. Article 3, reports from committees. Article 4 is the operating budget, which we'll review in a little bit. Article 5 is unpaid bills from previous years. Currently, we have 4 unpaid bills. One is medical, one is for the charging station, and the other is utilities for 135 King Street. The supplemental appropriations is Article 6. Article 7 is the stabilization and other special funds. Once again, these are transfers to OPEB and transfers to capital stabilization. Article 8 is the capital improvements budget. We've had several capital meetings. However, no votes have been taken other than the one for the sewer membranes. So the sewer commission is replacing their membranes, and they're looking for some transfers from their stabilization funds to purchase the membranes. They're also looking to transfer funds from that stabilization fund to pay off debt for the Little Harbor Sewer project. We have several requests here from all town departments. As you see, the police department has 3 requests. One being the 3rd year of the taser lease. One is the police car replacement program. The 3rd is their mobile radios. The fire department is looking to replace engine number 3. Public Works is looking for a variable message board, as well as fixing their truck catch basin cleaner. They're also looking to replace their street sweeper, as well as a John Deere utility tractor. The facilities department has only one request, and it is to replace the Paul Pratt exterior doors. Those are the doors that will go out to the new pavilion. It's more of an ADA compliance issue than really a door rehab. The next few are from the schools, and it's to replace the furniture at the Deer Hill School. And it's the last year of the replacement of all the interactive projectors. The big number here you see is the district-wide security enhancements. And then the other is the bus lease program. They're also looking for another multi-use vehicle bus. The library is looking for a book drop, and recreation has two items here, and one is to repaint the basketball courts at Sawyer Street, and the other is to pave and line the Sawyer Street parking lot.
So that last item, real quick, it says line paint. We can't be spending $120,000 on painting lines, right?
Yeah.
That's paving too.
That has to be changed.
Okay, I was
I
gonna
didn't
say,
hear you. I didn't hear your question, Mark.
it says $120,000 for line painting at Sawyer Street. And I'll paint the line for half that.
There we
so
go.
I was hoping that there was more than just line painting. Because I could
There
paint
we
a
go.
basketball court for 14 grand. We got to be able to do better. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Mark. The next article, Article 9, is the allocation of funds for one-time costs. Currently, right now, it's fund cemetery maintenance, the waterways fund, and from free cash, the projects are FY 23, 24, 25 excise tax for the waterways fund. Article 10 is revolving funds and annual spending limits. The specialized inspection is the only hold there. They may want to increase that to $100,000 versus the $50,000. But there's been no decision made on that as of yet. The Article 11. This is Chapter 91 liability, and this is to perform work in the harbor. Article 12, again, another housekeeping item. This is for the assessing department. And this is to provide relief for the elderly with low income, disabled, and so on and so forth. Article 13 is MGL 59, Section 5. This again is related to the assessing department, and this is for property tax deferment to raise it from 69,000 to 75,000. Article 14 is the rescission of authorized but unissued debt. We have an authorized unissued debt table, and that's indicative of all the money that's been voted over several years. We did identify that the water department has an article out there for $3.3 million outstanding. They do not want to issue that debt, so therefore we're going to rescind it and take it off the books at town meeting. This one we had questions about. I'm still not completely sure about the article. It's the acceptance of MGL Chapter 40, Section 13E. The way I understand it is during the Municipal Modernization Act, if we adopted this article, it would allow the school committee and the select board to vote jointly to take money from the state to put money into the special education fund. It doesn't look like this was ever adopted. However, I just saw an email that may indicate it was, so this may come up.
It was.
It was?
Yeah.
Okay.
When I was in the school committee, we voted it.
Okay. And then Article 16 is the Cohasset water rate structure. You'll see all the new rates below. Out to FY 31. Article 17, again, is just a placeholder for the Elm Street design. And when it says Elm Street design, it's talking about 62 Elm Street, which is the fire department. As we know, 135 King Street is going to come back on. That's in a future article. And the fire department is looking for some design to move their project forward. And that's what that article is about. Article 19 has to do with the wastewater treatment plant, and they're looking to authorize a bond of $1 million to fund designs for upgrades for the wastewater treatment plant. Article 20 is to create another revolving fund, and this is a cemetery revolving fund, and this will help fund a lot of the work that happens in the cemeteries. Article 21, annual item from CPC. As of right now, we may have one project before us for CPC, and it should be heard Monday evening. I'm not sure what that project is. And from what I understand, it's maybe not complete and it's not a large ask, but it'll be updated as soon as we know. Article 22 is an amendment to the South Shore Regional Vocational Technical High School Agreement, and that is the addition of Pembroke to the program. And Article 23 is an amendment to the bylaw. This was submitted by the town clerk just to make the parking permit, to clean up the language for the parking permits. Article 24 here is the Cohasset Public Safety Building placeholder. This has to do with 135 King Street and the design and the future build of the police headquarters. Article 25 is another amendment to the bylaws, and this is put forth by the Conservation Commission. They're having difficulties with a quorum because they're a 7-member board. They're asking to reduce that to 5 members so they can hold meetings regularly. Article 26 is a resolution. We believe that's coming off. Article 27 is a citizen's petition, and this is a noise control bylaw, and this is to prohibit the use of gas-powered leaf debris blowers and line trimmers and weed whackers. And Article 28 is another citizen's petition, and this is to repeal the vote from 2023, if you will, for the Wheelwright cell tower. And that is a quick review of the entire warrant. I know I went through it quickly, but it is just in draft form. So if anyone has any questions on any of these articles, please ask.
Courtney and then Diane, and then I have a quick question about Article 28.
Thanks, Michelle. I think I am going to have a fair number of questions, but to your point, it being in draft form, I'm just trying to figure out the best method to approach them. Let me ask, do we have a sense of timing when these things are going to be wrapped up with a bow so that, there's not, 16 back and forths?
Sure. So we anticipate by the end of next week, we will have a pretty warrant to be able to provide information to everybody. But certainly if you have questions and, if you think it's too many to ask tonight, you can send me an email and I can certainly respond to you in email with all the answers.
Thank you.
Diane?
Similarly, I have a bunch of questions, but and I think if Michelle, if you're providing information in response to any of our questions that we can email you, it would be great if we could share it with the whole committee so that we all have a lot of prep. Just a couple of really quick firing squad questions on the water rate changes. Is that because of a new study or is that something that was teed up a few years ago? And I think we should also make sure we're very explicit about what the material change is to the average tax water rate payer.
Sure. And yes, this is a new study that was commissioned. I think Mr. Pratt would welcome the opportunity to come to the advisory board and walk through this. He's been doing a great job explaining it. So we'll make sure that he attends the next meeting and he can walk through all these rate changes.
And then there's just 2 questions on Article 17, the Elm Street design, and Article 24, public safety building. Do we have a sense of the magnitude of those dollars?
Yep. So Article 17, honestly, I don't know. I don't know if Mark Cameron wants to jump in on that one.
Right.
But I can say for the public safety building, I think we're going to come back we'll have an estimate in hand by March 13th. We are going to review it, and then we are going to try to make a decision based on the estimate on March 19th. And when I say we're looking to make a decision, we'd ask the select board if they could hold a special meeting on March 19th to hear the public safety building, the estimate, the build out and the design concept. We would also like you to join and have a joint meeting so we can do it at the same time, since it's new news and we'd like to share it together if everyone's available.
And then my last question just is, when do we have to have our all of our deliberations in and our recommendations to town meeting for the closing of the warrant?
Yep, so the warrant officially closes April 1st.
And I think that's why I think these number magnitude, I mean, we have a very robust budget, just operating budget. So a lot of these numbers really need to kind of get into play real soon, because we have 3 weeks. And that's a lot of work. And I would just like to echo Jean's initial comments, which is if we can get this information even 24 hours, but preferably 48, 72 hours, because, I left my house at 7:30 this morning. I got home at 5 minutes of 7 and, didn't have any of this information until then. So thank you.
Sure.
And just one comment before Mike comments. Just to put everybody on the committee on alert, since the warrant closes April 1st, that means that we will be meeting every week until then. So all of the weeks in March, if you could please, I did mention this before, just pencil us in for all the Wednesdays in March, but this actually makes that, solidifies that a little bit. So we will meet again next week and the week after and the week after that. Mike?
Hi, Michelle, quick question. Being new to this process, when I look at Article 8 and I look at the general fund requests and I look at the amounts, are these just basic requests coming from the town departments? And is there any way to look at these numbers and say, yeah, that makes sense. We think that, like, let's look at the fire engine. Yeah, that 1.2. That's reasonable, or is there some due diligence into these numbers that's conducted to make sure that due diligence is actually being done and not just here's a number and this is what we want?
Sure. So that's a great question. And so the capital budget committee reviews all of these requests in detail. They are provided with quotes. They are provided with documentation from each department as to why they need replacements or why they're looking to fund something. They also fill out a form which is indicative of the need level, whether it's 1 through 10, whether it's life safety. So there's an extensive process. Capital budget has heard all of these requests. They actually started in November, and they're going to start voting on these requests on Monday.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful.
Sure.
Any more questions?
Michelle, the citizens petition ones, is that something we could knock out pretty soon? Are those ready? Are those groups ready to present to us?
Yes.
Because that might be an easy one to just kind of knock out ahead of time in the interest of time.
Sure. I mean, we can ask for your next meeting. You bring up a great point, Mark. We should identify who you'd like before you for your next meeting. Obviously, Mr. Pratt would be a great one to discuss the water rates, citizens petitions.
I've
Can
got
come before you.
significant questions about both of the petitions.
I'm sorry, Mark.
I said I got a lot of questions about the petitions. So
Okay. And then maybe we can ask the assessors to come. Even these are housekeeping items. I don't know if there's anybody else that you'd like to see before you.
I don't know, maybe like just maybe on the cemetery one, I like just understanding some of the whys of these I mean, we've had cemeteries for years and obviously they're operating. Just kind of understanding what the changes are, what we're,
Sure.
any of the revolving fund stuff, just trying to knock out the administrative stuff while capital budget is doing their due diligence.
Sure.
And typically capital budget will come before us, right, and present their
Yes,
recommended projects.
yes.
I'm hoping that if they vote on Monday, that maybe we can get them before you on Wednesday.
Okay, great.
Jean, I just have one question. It's
Yep.
for Michelle, and I'm sorry.
Take notes as I'm trying to catch all of this. Go ahead, Diane.
Yeah, no, my question is just on the stabilization funds, if that's the right term, and I apologize for the road and sidewalks and also school facilities that have removed theoretically some of the capital requests for those funds. Is that something that gets reviewed, or how does that get reviewed by town meeting?
So the stabilization funds, the way I understand it, it's reviewed by the select board. They agree on the increase, and the only time it goes before town meeting is if we're taking money and putting it in or taking it out. And I don't know if if we need that mechanism for the annual town meeting.
So if we're taking money out on a spend, that would theoretically show up here. So
Correct.
that means there are no projects pending within that right now.
As of right now, we don't have anything. I believe the last I heard about sidewalks was perhaps that was going to be a special town meeting ask. And as far as schools, we've already appropriated for the school roofs. The next ask will be for the school feasibility study. We're waiting on the timeline for that before we put anything on the warrant. But we should know that within a week's time as well.
Great, thank you.
Any more questions?
No. No.
Michelle,
Yes.
can you give us an update on where the schools are on their budget? I've had,
Yep.
I have to say, I've had 18 emails in the last several days. And
So, yep, they're doing a great budget presentation this evening.
okay, good.
So, oh, you have a hand raised. So they're presenting their budget this evening, in collaboration with the town. We were able to, fund additional money to the schools. It looks as if that they're going to be able to keep many of the teachers, the educators. Some of the administration staff may no longer hold a position. However, all the educational staff seems to be saved.
Okay.
I haven't heard the full presentation, because like I said, it's going on this evening.
And you're here. Thank you for being here. Okay. I'm going to defer the approval of minutes section because I know that we have Paul Kearse here to talk about the sewer. And I know that he would probably like us to hear him sooner rather than later.
Oh, I'm fine. The first thing on the agenda was discussing the warrant articles.
Right.
So I think that's the place for me.
Since you're on there.
Yes. So, first of all, I'm Paul Kearse, 39 Old Coach Road. I am the vice chairman of the Sewer Commission. And we have 2 articles that are on the warrant. I don't know, Michelle, that if you could show I think it's Article 5 or something, which is the monies that we're moving, and then Article 19 is the capital one. Or I'm sorry, Article 8. Yeah, Article 8.
So 5 and 8, or is it?
So 8 and 19.
8 and 19. Okay.
So we'll be able to take that off your plate.
Okay, great.
So we're enterprise fund, and currently we have a little over $1 million in retained earnings, and we've been doing pretty good balancing our budget with Beth, and it's been working extremely well. We've really had a great handle on our financial situation probably in the last 3 months. They've been extremely robust, and I can't thank Michelle enough for organizing. It was kind of a mandatory in-person meeting, and there was probably about 10 of us, and it was a 2.5 hour meeting where we just sat with finance and accounting and the full sewer commission, and the folks that work at Public Works and Michelle herself. So it really it got us better organized, and a clear understanding of how they account for things within the system that the town operates with, because we have various areas where we have funding that's already been approved in an account, that we feel we should be able to spend without town meeting, but then there's other issues that require us to move the money from one spot to another. And we have some capital asks. We've got the retained earnings, and the regular operating budget that we have is pretty fluid. It's cash flow positive, so we're in pretty good shape. The first article we have, which is Article 8, we had the main part of it is to move funding, and we have a stabilization fund, if you will, for membrane replacement, where we put anywhere from $80,000 to $100,000 a year aside for future spend on replacing the membrane. So there's in the sewer plant that we have two very large membranes, and they're like vertical blinds, if you will, that everything runs through after various processes, and it's kind of like the final filter system that everything goes through. And they were originally purchased 7 years ago or so, and they were kind of guaranteed to go 7 to 10 years, and it looks like they're only lasting 5 to 6 years. So last year we went in front of Capital to approve 500 to replace a side last year, and then we worked with Michelle to exercise some of the options in our warranty to help reduce that cost down to about $325, I think. So that side got replaced. Now the other one's failing, so we need to replace that. And this is it's a high priority because of the amount of labor that is in place now to keep that other membrane alive, because we can't operate on one, we need to operate on two. So we received quotes, and we negotiated best we could to bring that in. And so we wanted to order those right away. And the funding that we have available to us is the 465 out of that stabilization fund. And then we were going to take the balance, which is the 60,000 from retained earnings. So that would cover that cost. So that's going to come out of cash for us, and pay for the membranes. And we're working with Michelle to figure out what the procurement process is to get that on order. And then it'll be, I think the last go around we had to put a deposit down, and then it's something like a 20 to 30 week delivery. So they would show up sometime in August. So that's basically item 2 and 3 in the chart that you see there. The other one is the debt service for Little Harbor. That's transferring once again from one account to another to kind of close the gap on balancing the budget. So these ones are just a transferring of existing funds. So there's no new money that we're asking for here.
I have a technical question. Do you have any idea what caused the membranes not to last beyond this point? If the average life expectancy is 7 to 10 years and this is failing in 5, do you have a feeling for what's contributing to that, or if it's the product isn't as good as what you're used to buying? I know that the procurement process is sometimes difficult. Sometimes the bids come in and you have to pick someone that maybe you wouldn't pick if you were doing work on your house. Uh, so I'm just curious if it's somehow related to the quote unquote product from the sewer, for lack of a better word,
Right.
in mixed company. Just curious again if something's
Right.
degrading the
It
memory.
is. Right, right. Yeah. So this is kind of an easy question for us to answer because we've been we've been in the thick of it, not to make a pun, but so our plant, because we are Cohasset, so we have a very unique plant that was custom designed just for us. And at the time, a membrane system was designed and spec'd in. And over the period of whatever it's been, 20 years, the manufacturers of membranes have changed materials and have changed some of the designs of how the racking system and aeration works with those membranes. And so it's unfortunate that we are unable to go out and buy. We had three people that make membranes. They didn't make anything that would fit our system. And this was back when Michelle was in procurement when we bought the first round, 7 years ago or whatever it was. So we're kind of stuck with this system. So that's the situation we're in, and the next step would be that we would have to take a look at whether or not we want to make a capital change in the structure of the racking system that holds the membrane so that we can then afford something that's commercially available at a less cost and that would last longer. So that's kind of the challenge right at the moment. So it's, do we build a third tank and we don't have quite the footprint to do that? Do we spend $1 million or $2 million to change the system to adapt to a standard type of membrane system? Those are all things that we are looking into, but that's something that unfortunately we can't look into until we get this in place and focus on the next round. So we just replaced a set last year, so we know we've got a good 5 or 6 years on that one. We're setting money aside every year for that replacement. This one will come in August. We'll get 5 years out of that one. So we should have a good 4 to 5 year run at a regular run rate at the facility without having, issues. So that will allow us time to take a look at the facility itself. Over the last 24 to 30 months, we had participated in 2 grants. One was looking at the physical aspect of the facility and the mechanical equipment that are there. And the second one, which just wrapped up, was looking at all of the electrical side of it and the airflow system of the facility. So all of that came in. It was compiled, and Woodard and Curran had presented us basically a map of priorities of what to replace and what the expectancy is of them today. For instance, if we have a pump, it's been there for 30 years, and they say, well, it's probably going to go in the next year or two. You're going to want to replace that, and it's 1 million, right? So we have a laundry list of things, and some stuff may last 10 more years, 15 more years. And when you replace something, it may cause something to last longer because of the strain that it might be under based on the membrane situation that we have. So we just replaced, a prime example is we needed to buy this giant grit screw, right, which it takes the initial product from the town and it basically grinds it up into smaller pieces, right, and it gets screened and filtered. Well, the grinder pump went up with $500,000, so we bought that. That's being installed around the September time frame. But when we went to go look at bringing out the old grit screw to replace it, the entire tank system, which is stainless steel, was completely cracked. So that had to be replaced. So that was another $300,000 or $400,000. So, once that system is in, that's going to last 20 years. So we're going down the list now to kind of figure out where we are. And that'll tell us what to replace over what period of time better, which kind of brings us to Article 19, which in that study, there was a proposal in there if we were to replace, I don't know, let's say 20% of the systems there that had more to do with the airflow, which causes the membranes sometimes to work better. Aeration systems and some of the electrical stuff. And that was like, if we replaced everything tomorrow, it's $8 million. And we said, okay, well, how do we know that's true? So in the contract, there is a piece in there where they allocated, say, 20% of it towards the plans to actually go and draft all of the plans and put together what needs to be replaced and when it needs to be replaced and what those costs are. That plan was estimated to be around 750, and that was based on an entire project being done. So now that we're not doing the entire project, that cost should be less. That's why we put in for the 1 million, and our plan is to bond that. And so in bonding that would add about 68,000 a year to the debt service, which is something we can afford. It's about $5,700 a month, and that's somewhere around a 3.5% over 20 years kind of bond. And any funds that we don't use are then used for the rest of that program. So, for instance, if we did spend 500, we have 500 left to actually replace the equipment with. So that's the plan, is to start down that path.
Okay, thank you. You answered the questions that I had roaming through my head, so I appreciate that. Diane Kennedy.
I will probably get there, but I just wanted to know what the discussion of the warrant articles, how it relates to the reserve fund request that's later in our agenda for 152,800. I imagine that's because we need the cash soon, and then would that be pumped back in? But I don't know if we're going to continue this conversation that way or jump to that at 8, but just would like to know how they work together.
So the cash has to be spent, I would think, by August on the 525, and the 150, that has to be done by June 30th.
So to my understanding, yeah, go ahead, Michelle.
So the reserve fund transfer request for the 156 is the 30% deposit to purchase the membranes. And that is the money we're asking you to fund now. Once their requests go through at annual town meeting, there will be an article to put that money back into the reserve fund from their capital stabilization account. But this is so we can get that purchase order in so we can take delivery in August because they're desperate for these membranes.
Great. And when we get there, the document I have for the reserve fund transfer is 152,840. Is that 156?
It's
So
probably 152. I'm just off the top of my head.
Yeah,
Sorry.
okay, great. Thanks.
Okay, any more questions? Oh, Mark.
On the Article 19, the bond, that debt service would be paid out of the retained earnings, or the, right, so it's, okay. So
Well,
it's not,
it gets paid out of the regular operating budget and not out of retained earnings. Yeah.
okay, so so for the taxpayers here, it's not a bond that they'll see in their tax bill or their sewer bills. It's already encompassed in what they pay.
Right. So the 68,000 will come. It's cash out of our regular operating expense from the revenues we take in from the ratepayers already,
Okay.
and other fees that we generate throughout the year. As long as we stay on top of the expenses that we're looking at, it shouldn't be a problem for FY 27. The one thing that we do have that's positive on a cash flow basis is that in about, I want to say 36 to 40 months, we have 900,000 in debt rolling off.
Great.
And that's basically the only debt we have. We have about 900,000 in debt service. We did a $500,000 bond a year and a half ago. I haven't seen what the debt service is on that, but I suspect that's 30,000 a year.
All right, any more questions? Okay, so as I understand this, Paul and Michelle, what we are being asked is to recommend the transfer of $152,000 to be used as a deposit on membrane replacement. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Diane?
Yeah, just a point of clarification. I think we're approving those funds from the reserve fund as opposed to this is something that the advisory board has, oversight over is the reserve fund. So
Okay.
not recommending, it has nothing really
Right.
to do with the warrant.
Most everything that we do is a recommendation, so.
That's right. I just wanted to clarify.
And is that without the document in front of me, can you just give me the exact amount, Michelle?
I also don't have the document in front of me. I think Diane just said 152.80. Was that what you said, Diane?
It's 152,840 is what I have on my
153,
152,840. Does that sound right, Michelle?
Yes, that's what I see on the document.
Okay, good. That was on the OneDrive.
Okay,
And Michelle, that's separate than Article 5, right?
This is completely
piece of-
separate. Yep, this is just the reserve fund to get you that deposit so we can get that PO off too.
Right. And then we give you back the 153 and we pick up the 465.
Yes.
Something like that.
Okay. Yeah. We're robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Short-term borrowing.
I'm just trying to read.
I don't know what article that one is, but
The 152 is just a reserve fund transfer. It's not an article.
So,
Okay.
Diane, did you make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve a $152,840 transfer from the reserve fund to the sewer.
Thank you.
Sewer commission or sewer
Budget.
Sewer budget. Yes, you're not getting it, Paul. Sorry.
And do I have a second?
Second,
Who seconded?
Mark Cameron.
Mark Cameron. Okay. All right, roll call, please. Mike Flaherty,
Mike Flaherty, aye.
Mike Barclay,
Mike Barclay, aye.
Tom Callahan,
Tom Callahan, aye.
Mark Maggi,
Mark Maggi, aye.
Mark Cameron,
Mark Cameron, aye.
Courtney Murphy,
Courtney Murphy, aye.
Diane Kennedy,
Diane Kennedy, aye.
and Gina Stino, aye. So the transfer has been approved.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then you'll vote to recommend the other two articles. Is that up for tonight or no?
I would recommend holding off only because capital has only made a recommendation on one. We'll do it all at one.
Do it all at once.
On our particular article or the whole warrant?
No, on yours. On yours.
Yeah, so capital already recommended the 1 million on Article 19 on Monday night. And then they supported Article 5, but I think Article 5 is really advisory responsibility. Because you're transferring money from one fund to another. It's not a capital.
Michelle, could you put that page up again, please,
Sure.
with Article
Sorry, I'm
5?
just going through my paper document so I can make notes.
Article 5 is the unpaid bills.
I'm
Then you
sorry.
get Article 8.
Article 8.
Article
So-
8, yeah.
The challenge with Article 8 is comprised of all capital items.
Right.
So I think when we get the advisory recommendation, we'd want it on all capital because it's all encompassing.
Okay, so sewer's included in that list.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're right, Michelle. We need to vote that whole thing to the best of our ability
Yeah.
all at once.
Okay, and then Article 19 would be the one that you could vote on if capital's already done that on Monday night. So that's Article 19, Michelle.
Yep, Article 19, capital heard it, recommended it, doesn't really need to recommend it for the article, for the, sorry, for the warrant. But we do need advisory, sewer commission and select board.
Okay. Let me just read through it one more time. See if the town will vote to authorize a bond up to $1 million in funding to complete designs for WWTP upgrades, including HVAC and odor control system, membrane blowers, electrical equipment, the supplemental aeration system, and the UV disinfection system. Authorization for construction will be at a subsequent town meeting when designs and construction estimates are complete, or to take any other action related thereto. And as I believe you said, Paul, that the funding will be coming from debt roll-off and retained earnings?
No, so this would be bonded.
Yep,
Right.
so this is bonded and it'll be paid by, the ratepayers.
Oh, exactly. I should have maybe called it ratepayers, but okay. All right, so do we have a motion to recommend this Article 19 to town meeting?
I'll recommend Article 19.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call, please. Mike Flaherty,
Mike Flaherty, aye.
Mike Barclay,
Mike Barclay, aye.
Tom Callahan,
Tom Callahan, aye.
Mark Maggi,
Mark Maggi, aye.
Mark Cameron,
Mark Cameron, aye.
Courtney Murphy,
Courtney Murphy, aye.
Diane Kennedy,
Diane Kennedy, aye.
and Gina Stino, aye. Okay, so that one has been recommended.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And I can tell you that the folks that run the plant at Woodard and Curran on Elm Street there, they'll be very happy to hear the approval on the short-term funding so we can get the membranes ordered.
Well, thank you for dealing with our discombobulation,
Oh, it's perfectly fine.
lack of documents in front of us. Thanks,
No
Paul.
problem.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Paul.
guys. Take care. Have a good evening.
You too. Okay, so I also have budget review. Michelle, do you
Sure.
have any more information on that?
So I presented I presented the budget last night. Once again, it's a draft. It is not a balanced budget yet. We're making changes daily on it. We're still waiting for numbers to come in, for health insurance costs. So that's a big.
And
number.
Courtney, you had asked earlier about the fact that this is your first time through this process. And every week we'll get a new draft with all of the things that have taken place during the previous week.
Mhm.
So and you should have it hopefully ahead of time so that you'll have time to look it over.
Thank you, Jean. That's helpful. I would echo the comments that were made earlier, 48 hours at least. And I guess first time through, but I'll just register the comment that I'm a little surprised it's the 4th of March and we have less than a month to get all this done. I would not recommend we do that in the future.
You are not wrong. There's been a lot going on. Okay, so budget presentation FY26.
Sure. Okay.
And let me just add a little caveat to that comment, the fact that we recognize that it's difficult because quite often the select board is meeting the night before our meetings. But it is important for us to have as much information ahead of time as we can get, as far ahead of time as we can. I mean, even if it's the same information that is given to the select board for their review, just so that we have something in front of us.
Understood.
Great, thank you.
Sure. Okay, so let me get this moving. There we go. Okay, so the FY27 budget, I just wanted to go through some of the mechanisms of the budget before we really get into the details of the budget. One would be the funds overview. And the funds overview is simply just to describe the different type of funding mechanisms we have. So we have the general fund, and as you know, the general fund funds all town departments, as well as the Cohasset School District. It funds the departments, public safety, public works, RTF, employee benefits, and all debt. We have enterprise funds set up in town. We have two of those. You just heard from one, which is our sewer enterprise fund, and then we have a water enterprise fund. Those are separate funds that the revenue generated supports those funds. We have revolving funds. The town of Cohasset has 14 revolving funds, excluding recreation. And those revolving funds are special funds that are created and can roll from year to year. Next, let's talk about free cash. So oftentimes you'll hear free cash, and what does our free cash number look like? Our free cash gets certified every fall. And as you can see by the totals below, you'll see the free cash number certified in 2025 was $1.2 million, substantially lower than the previous years. And the free cash is due to, tight budgeting, and the tighter you budget, the lower your free cash number will be, because how you generate free cash is excess from your budget. So it falls to the bottom, and therefore it's certified free cash at the end of the year. The recommendation from the DOR, or their best practice, is to have 3 to 5% of your annual budget in free cash annually. We try our best. During this year's budget cycle, that was top of mind for us because we do see this declining number, and we want to make sure that we're funding it appropriately. Revenues by source. So everyone knows about the tax levy, property tax generates the levy, and that's where a lot of our money comes from. Where we have constraints is Prop 2.5, right? So Prop 2.5 doesn't let you levy more than 2.5% of the total fair cash value of all taxable personal property in the community. So therefore, you're handcuffed. While inflation could go up 4 to 5%, we can only grow at 2.5%. A lot of times people intermingle the word override and debt exclusion, and they are different. They're different mechanisms. So an override is a permanent increase to the levy limit, whereas a debt exclusion is for a period of time. So when we ask for excluded debt, we do it over a period of time, whether it be 20 or 30 years, sometimes even 10 years. And the amount of time is determined by the type of project. So if it's a large building, and it's supposed to, its useful life is 30 to 50 years, well, of course, we take it out for 30 years. If it's a piece of equipment that only lasts 10 years, then we only take that debt out for 10 years. So that's how that works. As far as new growth, this is a large number that we depend on for our budget. Last year, we saw a new growth number of over $1 million. Unfortunately, in FY27, our new growth number is only anticipated to come in at about $350,000. And that's due to no more construction. So we've seen tremendous growth over the past few years in Cohasset. And in FY27, we don't anticipate those growth numbers. So therefore, our projection is $350,000. When we talk about local receipts, those are generated from motor vehicle excise tax, your ambulance, your building permits, RTF fees. This number is always fluctuating. However, we look for, so we budgeted $4.7 million in FY26, and that was a 14% increase over FY25. We're looking to budget additional funds in FY27 for local receipts, and we feel as though that's attributed mostly to the RTF fees. So we're confident we can get additional monies there. So your budget formula and structure. I'd like to reframe the conversation when we talk about our budget formula and structure. Oftentimes we talk about the schools and the town as two separate budgets. While I appreciate that and they do work as two separate functions, the schools are a department within the town. So there's one bucket of money, and that bucket of money has to be allocated across all departments, in which the schools is one of them. So the schools gain the largest share, of course, at 61%. This year, the school's budget is $26 million and change. In-town services get 39% of the share. And that is to pay for all of these things you see here, your public safety departments, your Department of Public Works, community services, and general government. In FY, you'll see some growth of about 4% in both budgets. So the school budget is recommended in FY26 to FY27. You'll see that over 4% growth. I think it's about 4.75. And the town budget slightly over 4% at about 4.2%. These are the latest numbers that the school has been given. So this is how they're budgeting. When I'm talking about the $17 million for the town budget, I'm simply talking about departmental budgets. The town budget overall has about a $37 million budget, and that takes into account all of those shared mandatory costs that we have to pay no matter what. Your health insurances, your transfers, your debt payments, all of those things. So this is, so the proposed budget per department is up here. Oh, I don't know what happened there. Sorry. Let me get back. Okay, that didn't work. Here we go. So the proposed budget per department, as you'll see here, in FY26 versus FY27, the overall impact is you'll see about a 4% increase overall. If you want to look at numbers that have increased over the years, you're going to pull out for police, you'll see 3.7 to 4.1. I can tell you a lot of that is attributed to the SHREC system, which is our dispatch center. We're a member of the SHREC system, and that's 4 communities. So we're 1 vote out of 4 communities. And we've seen substantial increases there in the amount of over $100,000 just this year. You'll see the fire department increase there. I'd also like to add police, fire have also completed their contract negotiations, and those are all accounted for in this year's budget as well. The other, you'll see some numbers have gone down, and that's in the building department. They're utilizing some of their revolving funds for some of their expenses, as it was designed to do. Department of Public Works is a slight increase. Once again, that's contractual and it's a union negotiated contract. You'll see snow and ice is at $127,000. We know that that is going to exceed $127,000. So we are responsibly asking all departments now to freeze spending so that money drops to free cash, so we can allocate the money towards this expense at the end of the year. This is one of the only expenses that you can the only accounts that you can deficit spend. And we're hoping, due to the emergency declaration for snow and ice over this past month, that we'll be able to pay this over a period of time. It's typically what the Commonwealth does in the event of an emergency. So then you have, the recycle transfer facility has increased slightly. That's just due to the management model and, again, union contracts. Facilities has decreased, and this isn't because we are not taking care of our buildings. It's not that we're not accounting for things that we need. What we've done here is we've taken away the contingency fund, and we're going to utilize the reserve transfer fund, because typically we don't utilize the fund in the way it was designed to be used. So in the event of an emergency, we'd like for them to come to the advisory board and ask for the funds that you have available. So we were able to decrease that budget. We have the health budget. That's a slight decrease only because of a change in employee status. And then, you know, health, elder affairs, those are all pretty stagnant budgets. The veterans budget has decreased slightly just due to a fund no longer being used. The library has increased due to operating expenses, and recreation is flat. We do have 125 total FTEs across all of these departments. And then let's talk about some of the funding challenges, and I just highlighted some of them. We have these fixed costs, right? So we have to fund them no matter what. And they are health insurance, our pension obligation, utilities and insurances, and debt service. We also, as I just indicated, negotiated all of these new contracts, and they're 3-year contracts. They were all negotiated within the past 6 months. And I believe firefighters and teachers are the only outstanding contracts that have not been concluded, but are in active negotiations. So while we talk about the schools having some reductions and some challenges there, the town also is sharing in some of that pain. We have several positions that we have taken a look at, and we have decided that, you know, we no longer either need the position for one reason or another, or we can make do by shifting bodies elsewhere. The positions that are affected are the communication specialist. That's been reduced from full-time to part-time. The assistant town planner, we have eliminated that position. We are reducing the hours at the Paul Pratt Library. We're closing Sundays. They were open for 3 hours on Sundays. It was my understanding that we are one of the only libraries on the South Shore that's open 7 days a week. That doesn't mean that they'll never open on a Sunday. They may have special programming, but as of now, it's closed on Sundays. Our town cleaner, the position has been eliminated, and that work is going to be absorbed within our facilities department. The assistant town
What was the work of
manager.
the town cleaner?
I'm
What were they
sorry?
cleaning? What was the work of the town cleaner? What were
They were cleaning town hall and recreation. It was a part-time position. I believe it amounted to about 12 hours a week. The assistant town manager, finance director, there's a salary reduction there due to the step that the new person will come in at. We also asked all departments to take a look at their expense line items and reduce them by 3 to 5%, and they all complied with that request, and we were able to find additional savings there. So that is the budget as it stands now. I'm happy to take any questions.
Courtney had her hand up before and I missed it. Sorry,
Oh,
Courtney.
I'm sorry.
No, thanks. Sorry for this question. What's the 61-39 split? Where does that come from? Is that a
Yes.
bylaw or something? I've seen that in a million places. I just haven't figured out where it comes from.
Yeah. So I'm going to say here, I'm not sure it is actually a bylaw, or
No,
I think it's just
it's not. It's
an
just
unwritten rule, and that's just how it's been. And I don't know if that's the best answer, but I believe that to be true.
And it's just because they have most of the employees. It's just a fact of life.
Of
It
course they
used
do,
to-
but 61, who, like somebody pulled that out of the air, or it's just
Well,
always
it
been
used
that
to-
way? I'm
it-
just trying
well,
to figure out where it
what-
came from.
When I was a select board member, selectman, it used to be 67, 68. It's changed because maintenance has been taken out of the school budget and put in the town budget, but it's effectively 2/3, 1/3, and always has been. I've lived here 40 years. It's always been that way. And it's a reflection of how many employees? That's the majority of our employees are there.
It,
Diane?
it is both a reflection, as Tom's saying, of the reality, but it's all there. It is memorialized in the select board has financial management policies that get reviewed occasionally. And since I was on the select board for 12 years, I think probably 9 of those years I said, we should be re-looking at this. But it is something that the select board, and I bring it up all the time, every once in a while they rejigger some things in terms of policies and benchmarking. There's been some financial management committees that have kind of studied whether the split's right. So it is memorialized in the select board financial management.
Thank you. That's helpful.
And Diane, correct me if I'm wrong, it's 6139 of new growth. It's
correct. That's how it's split after, and which is super complicated. And to this day, I can't wrap my head around it, but it ultimately reflects truly how the budget lands. So each year when you're building a new budget, when you get down to the new growth, it gets split 69-31. Is that it? 61
Yep.
or
And I can share those numbers with you actually.
Right.
So as of right now, the 61% of our new revenue equates to 1.1 or $1.2 million. And the town share at 39% is about $760,000. Just for a rough magnitude of what that new growth number looks like.
So that becomes kind of the add-on to the previous year's budget that you need to work within. But of course, there's different strains, as Michelle has been telling us, that require some finessing within that. Yeah.
And Michelle, are you going to continue with the 5-year projection that shows all of the costs? So Courtney, when we get that, you'll be able to see what the new growth number is, but you'll also be able to see, it's called below the line on that projection sheet. So what's above the line is costs that are shared or taken on, for lack of a better term, than the town, taken on by the town. So for example, the bus lease.
Do you want me to run through them? I have them in front of me. I'm happy to run through them.
But I want everybody here to understand, particularly the new members, that there are many costs that are totally on the town side. It's not just that 6139 formula. That's just extras. So go ahead and explain, Michelle.
Yeah. So when we talk about the shared costs, we'd like to call them more mandatory costs because they have to be paid no matter what.
Right.
And those are the above the line costs. So when I walked through the budget quickly, I indicated that the $17 million was indicative of just the department's budgets. Well, the remaining amount of money comes from all of these shared costs. And the shared costs are the South Shore Regional Emergency Communication Center, a portion of that, not the whole fee. Our SROs and our crossing guard, our technology department, a portion of the technology department, emergency management, risk management, South Shore VOTEC, facilities, a portion of facilities, debt. There's all kinds of debt here that needs to be paid, pension liabilities, workers' compensation, unemployment, health insurance, life insurance, Medicare taxes. So none of the fun stuff, but we have to pay it no matter what. And it's forever increasing.
All above the line.
Mm-hmm.
Those are costs that the town covers. For example, the school resource officer used to come out of the school budget. Not anymore. The vehicle maintenance for the buses used to come out of the school budget. Not anymore because we went to the lease, and that gets funded through capital budget appropriations that we vote on later. I was trying to, janitorial stuff in the schools used to be handled by the schools, but we now have a town janitorial staff that handle all the buildings.
That's why 20 years, yeah, that's why 25 years ago, it was 67%. was the school budget, because we've since moved a lot of things out of that budget. That's
For the
still
purpose,
service.
Tom, for the purpose of sharing and scalability, right? That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
I'm hearing this is about
Yeah.
scale. Or
Yeah.
and or it was a capital lease, so it belongs to the capital budget as opposed to the operating. Is that fair?
Yeah, I mean, why things have been moved out of the school budget, I mean, there's lots of reasons that go back years and years, the arguments we had back then when we were facing overrides every year. But you know, the schools are roughly allocated what they are based on scale. You know, so they have a certain scale with the janitorial services and the maintenance services that now are out of their budget, but they still get those services. I mean, I look at the 61% as being no different than the 67% of 20 years ago. Because they're still getting roughly, again, it's roughly 2/3 of the resources of the budget as I see it and always have seen it.
Okay, any questions?
So Jean, you had asked a question about the 5-year projections.
Yes.
And yes, we're going to provide the 5-year projections. I think Diane asked last week for actuals for prior years, and I do have that. I'll be able to share that with everyone tomorrow. But as far as the 5-year projections, we are going to commission someone to come in and really dig into the 5-year projection, because we want to be prepared for a future override. If necessary, we want to make sure that we have a full understanding of all of our capital needs and all of our operational needs as we go into FY28. We want eyes wide open, so we're going to commission a study to get that done.
Very good. Thank you.
Sorry, point of clarification. What do you mean by a study to be, like, we should have 5-year projections across the board, which we don't. Like override or otherwise, that's like just good practice.
No, we do. So we have
Okay.
5-year projections. What will happen here is we'll have help from the DOR. They'll come in and help us with the 5-year projections and outline our capital needs over 5 years, which we have a template for. However, they'll really get into the details, and they'll help us with, you know, the amount of debt we can carry, what we should do year over year. So it'll be a more in-depth study than what we can do.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. All right, we ready to move on? Okay. So I have on here update from liaison, town hall working group and public safety facility committee. And Mark Cameron indicated that there are some updates, which he will share.
Yep. So town hall. So I'm just going off my notes here. So fire suppression. So we've got the fire suppression has been installed in Old Town Hall. All the pipes have been run. And right now they are working on the alarm as well as the electrical on the historic side. So that work is ongoing. Much of the demo over there has been done as far as we can take it right now. In terms of ceilings have come out, carpet has come up, and we're just waiting on some remaining interior space planning that we're working through right now before the remainder of the demo is complete. So in terms of the space planning, we're about halfway through the process. Much of the offices on the second floor of Old Town Hall there are going to remain the size and layout that they are. There'll be some adjustments with that intermediate level as you go down from the full second floor down to that intermediate between 1 and 2 that's in the front of the building. And then we're working on all of the seats and positioning and layout options on the annex side. So we're currently going through that process right now. The windows we've been working with, we did select a design team back in December. That design team is the one who's doing the space planning as well as the window replacement work. So we actually just met with the Cohasset Common Historic District Commission in the hour before this meeting. So we got approval from them on the windows that we're presenting for a replacement for the entire building, both sides. So we'll be sending those drawings out for bid and award for that work to be happening this spring and summer. And then schedule wise, like I said, that the windows will be happening this spring and summer. We have our HVAC design overall. There'll be some tweaks as we modify a little bit of the interior layouts, just some locations of the drops. We have the design, but in order to capitalize on some green community grant funding, we have to have the window work predominantly complete. So the push here right now from a timing perspective is get the windows complete, and that's what we're putting our heads down and working on getting that wrapped up so we can get to some of the other activities. So that's the update on town hall. I guess any questions on town hall? Okay. Public safety. So right now we're going through some value engineering options for the public safety building. Basically, the two options that are right now on the table is for King Street is the renovations plan for the police side, and for the as far as the fire side, it's the two options are either an empty addition with nothing in it, ready for future and future programming, or no addition at all on the fire side. So those are basically the two. There's not an option right now that we're looking where we're going to have a fire annex and have it be fit out like originally planned. There was, a lot of conversations relative to the operation of it, the staffing of it from a department side. And it really, we've involved the fire department. They've been part of these conversations a lot more so that we can have a real comprehensive plan. But basically the plan that was presented before in terms of a staffing wasn't going to work. So it was going to be an ambulance up on 3A, but not an ambulance on in the main firehouse. So it was going to divide the fire department, and that was creating an operational issue that half of the fire department was going to be at Elm Street and half of the fire department was going to be on King Street. So again, if looking at right now. In terms of timing, we plan to bring an article to Springtown meeting, hopefully. If we can get everything wrapped up in a bow there, that presents one or both of those options and let the taxpayers decide which one, whether it's going to have an addition or not on the fire side. Elm Street, as Michelle ran through the warrant, there's going to be a separate article that identifies the items on Elm Street and puts together some level of planning. It's not going to have any construction numbers to it. It's going to allow for planning and design over there. And really, this was a function of what town council said based on the article that was already approved at last town meeting. And right now, the push here is we want to get something in front of the town to approve for King Street, because that's the prerequisite to making anything and everything happen. And right now, we're just sitting with inflation climbing. We're not doing any construction. We're not doing anything. And in any situation, King Street needs to be built first. There is no scenario that exists that allows us to bid both projects now, knowing that Elm Street can't happen for 3 years. We need to get King Street done first, and we think it's prudent to do that before we spend all the money to fully design Elm Street and not have committed to what we're going to do at King Street. So as much as the commute, everyone would like to see the entire story, we really need to get King Street done, because right now it's it's just kind of a circular reference, if you will. We need to get out of our own way and get that one done.
Any questions? No? Okay. So the next item that I have on the agenda is reorganization of committee, and this is just really a conversation. I put possible vote in case somebody wants to nominate someone for the chairperson. As you are all aware, because I've mentioned it a couple of times, I have aged out of my advisory service. I am done at town meeting or after town meeting to the election, but I have a personal commitment out of town for town meeting. So it will be the first town meeting that I will miss in, I can't even tell you how many years, probably 20, 25. So I would like to make sure that my current position has someone in place prior to town meeting so that they can kind of take over the reins in my absence. So we can put this off until next week. I'll give you all a little bit of time to think about it and see who you might want to nominate, and then we can take a vote. Does that work?
Sounds good.
Diane?
I know, I just wanted to correct. You said you aged out. No, you have termed out. You have fulfilled 2 full terms, which is all that's allowed per the bylaws. Has nothing to do with age.
No, 9 years on the school committee and 6 years on advisory. I think I'm
No,
At 39 can't be aging out.
Mark's a charmer.
all right. So topics not reasonably anticipated within 48 hours of the meeting. This again is a statement. It's not really anything other than my thoughts, as over the last several days, I have received 18 emails about school budget. I'm not on the school committee. The school budget is the school budget. It's not ours. It is ours to recommend to town meeting, but it's not ours. I keep hearing the term operational override, operational override. Operational overrides are not to fund salaries, they're to fund projects. A better use of resources would be for maybe some grassroots committee to come together and go in front, lobby the legislature to increase the cap on the tax levy. 3% would help us, 3.5% would help us, and it still wouldn't be outrageous for the taxpayers here. So, I mean, people don't understand the way things work. They keep saying, well, raise the taxes. Well, we can't do that because we have to comply with Proposition 2.5, which is the law of the land in Massachusetts. So my recommendation, I know that there are people in the audience who are probably interested in this subject, but it's a legislative point of order, for lack of a better term, for them to go in and determine. I would say that every town in this state is challenged in the same way that Cohasset is. And many of them, there are smaller towns and there are larger towns. We're a small town. We only have certain amount of money that we can use to fund our town. And it has to be within that 2.5%. So if we're going to build something, if we're going to buy something, that would be a project. And that is something that you could have an override for, but not for operational, day-to-day operations, because then it stays in the tax levy and it doesn't always cover what the first intention was for that money. That's the easiest way that I can explain it. So if anybody wants to add anything to that, I would be happy to have you comment. That's a nope.
No, I agree with you that, Ellen brought this up at our joint meeting, that 2.5 is outdated.
It is very.
I
It's
mean,
a long
and
time.
I mean, we've, again, back 20, 25 years ago, we were facing this prospect every year. And we did have at least one override election when I was on the select board, maybe two, I can't remember. But, and back then, I found a county in Maryland that had a cap, it was 4.5%. And at the time, 25 years ago, that would have worked perfectly for Cohasset.
Yeah.
Because people want raises, and they want raises, most of our expenditures are on personnel, and they want raises in excess of 2.5%. And there's going to be a place where that just doesn't work anymore. Your expenses are just not going to be able to keep up. Your expenses being people, with the cap of 2.5%, it's just unrealistic at this time. And whether you could ever get the legislature, I mean, it was changed by, what was it, a ballot initiative, right? 1980. It was done by the voters. It wasn't done by the legislature.
No, it's
It was right after, it was right after California did theirs. And
But I think that, Tom, I think that what we can promote is maybe having our senator and our representative come and speak to us.
Mhm.
We did, when I was on the school committee, we always invited them to come to a meeting and explain what was going on in the state. And I know that the select board has done that in the past also. I don't know when the last time was that they came, but Joan Moschino is very happy to come before us, and so is Patrick O'Connor. So maybe we invite them to one of our meetings and do a joint meeting and see what they think of the idea.
And I will tell you, there's a lot of other communities having this very conversation.
Absolutely.
I mean, if there's ever been a time, I think this is it, because when healthcare goes up 7, 8, 9% sometimes, and everything else is 3, 4, 5%, that it leaves everybody upside down.
It went up 18% in my office for healthcare.
Yeah, it's crazy. And for 20 years, we've ridden this wave of real estate and new growth, and that's hitting a wall right now.
Right.
Michelle just showed us the number of our new growth. It's down substantially. And so, again, we're not alone in this. Like Diane said, something's got to give at some point. But I would also remind the, advocates for the override to look at the history of the success of overrides in this community.
Well, the last one failed miserably, and I know the reason. So
yeah, and then in the one that I was referring to when I was a selectman, it was multiple choice: small, medium, and large. Small one, but medium and large one that everybody, the advocates really wanted, died horribly. It wasn't even close, if I recall. So it's great to get people at town meeting to say, "Oh yes, I want an override," but it's a whole other world when you get to the election. And that's what it's always been historically in this town. So
we did have a history of overrides on a regular basis before that.
It was like every 3 years since it came.
The last failed override was when the schools were in dire straits, needed $1 million.
Yeah.
Override did not pass, and the superintendent at the time found $650,000 in money that was somewhere.
Yeah, well, that's.
So it failed.
That's a whole other discussion of how they manage their budget, and how it's structured for them to manage their budget in a lot more secrecy than the town side, in my view. But
there wasn't a lot of secrecy in my time, I have to tell you. But I don't know about now, because I've been away from it for 7 years.
We talk about the public safety building, and I advocate having an ambulance on both sides of the track. At one point, I think when I first moved here, we still had 3 fire stations.
Yeah, there was one in Beechwood.
One in Beechwood, one in West Corner, and then one in downtown. And Prop 2.5 killed all of that. Yeah. Killed a lot of things in a lot of towns, during the 80s and 90s. And, now we're coming back, I think, unfortunately, we're coming back to that reality.
Well, as Diane pointed out, we're not the only town that is having this conversation. So there's strength in numbers. And I would say that it probably is time to revisit that. Diane?
I was going to move to adjourn, but do we need to approve the minutes? Or did we already do that?
We
No,
also,
I
Gene, it
put
looks
up-
like you have a question as well in the chat, in the Q&A.
Yes, I'm sorry to keep everybody with the history lesson, but it's important to know that it's not like we haven't confronted this before.
Right. That's right. And what did you say, Courtney?
There's a question in the Q&A.
Hold on a minute.
Want to call your attention to it.
I've been checking periodically, but I didn't say anything.
I think it's new.
Oh, can you provide the bylaw or state law that says you can't do an override for operational expenses? No, off the top of my head, no.
No, that's not what the law, I would say to Mr. Ashton, that's not what the law says, but it's a philosophy of why you do overrides. There's operational and there's debt. As Michelle explained earlier, the debt is for a short-term thing to build a capital project. Operational is for the operational budget, but it shouldn't be done willy-nilly, is what Gene is essentially saying, and it shouldn't be done just to fund some short-term operational need.
And that short-term
Because you gotta think of the long
operational
term.
need would be salaries for 1 year, for example.
Yeah. Or for people who want expanded kindergarten.
We won't go down that road again. Okay, so it is 8:34. We're ahead of schedule. And do I have a motion to adjourn?
Gene, one last note.
Yep.
The high school girls varsity team just won their game out in Western Mass. They are headed to the Elite Eight. So girls are on their 3-hour trek back from
Oh,
wherever it is, Wanahana Regional High School in practically New York. So they're heading back
Fantastic.
now. And I guess Addie Andrews hit her 1,000 points. So
Oh,
Fantastic.
great.
congratulations to those girls.
congratulations.
Congratulations.
Okay.
Okay,
That's
now I would like a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So second.
Okay, just a minute. So it's now 8:35. Roll call, please. Diane Kennedy,
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Tom Callahan,
Tom Callahan, aye.
Mike Flaherty,
Michael Flaherty, aye.
Brittany Murphy,
Courtney Murphy, aye.
Mark Maggi,
Mark Maggi, aye.
Mark Cameron,
Cameron, I.
Mike Barclay. Mike Barclay. Woo-hoo.
He's frozen, but
Yeah, he's probably driving home. So
he's probably good.
maybe
I
he's
think that's a
not on
movie.
his way home, hopefully.
I'm sure he wants to stop.
Yeah, I doubt he's protesting this meeting being over.
Oh, he just moved. Mike Barclay
Aye.
and Gina Stino, aye. Thanks so much, and we'll see you all next week, same time.
Good
See you
night.
later.
Thank you.
See you,
Good night.
folks. Take care.
Bye-bye.